Hey, nerds. What's up? What's up? What's up? It is another episode of Nerd Variety Podcast. I'm joined today, well, first, I'm Josh, and I'm joined today by Hannah, keeping it 100 Hogan over there.
Yeah.
It sounded like 100.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah.
Maybe 110. We'll see. And joined also by Hunter Roadrunner Rafferty.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
We're gonna get you one of these days.
No, you won't. I brought an anvil.
Every time. Can't do anything about that.
It's my go-to weapon.
Well, hopefully Acme stocks will drop so we can finally, all your tricks will stop.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. It's in script. Anyway, so we all actually hung out over the weekend, right?
Well, kind of. Like, we were in the same location.
Yeah.
Hannah made us split up to play separate games.
She took
Were all three of us playing separate games?
Yes, we were. Me and you played Smack Up. What was it?
Smash Up,
yeah. Smash Up.
Yeah.
Together
like
for
at
near
end,
the end of it.
Right?
Yeah. But Hunter, you played.
I played Pandemic, and Hannah played Betrayal at
House on the Hill. Yeah.
Betrayal on House on the Hill. Yeah, we talked about that in one episode.
Yeah.
It's best game.
Yeah. How was that round between you and because you played with one of your friends that has played the game before, and then three that haven't played.
Yeah. The biggest thing was that our one friend who doesn't ever really seem like she enjoys hanging out with us. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
Ended up being the traitor, so she had to figure out how to play. Like she was supposed to go out into a separate room and like look at her instructions by herself and come back with a strategy on like how she's going to beat us, but she'd never played before. She didn't really seem like she wanted to be there, and she apparently like had eye surgery or something, and so couldn't read the textbook. Yeah, so it was just kind of like, I'm gonna help you.
She always likes joining. She just likes pretending like she doesn't like to be around us.
Like some other people I know.
It's hard to tell.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. But no, it seemed, and luckily it was a pretty easy haunt. It was pretty simple mechanics for her to follow, so she was able to. She still lost, but
good. Because
that'll teach her to come to game night.
I mean, that'll teach her to betray us in a haunted house.
And let some evil spirit take over her and lead the rest of you to your doom. Yeah. But we had fun. Looking to do this again beginning of next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can be a continuous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But unfortunately today we're talking maybe continue in a different way, but they were shot down in their prime. We're talking about one season wonders or one season TV shows. So TV shows can kind of they can either be really awesome, or they can be okay, or they can be just plain bad. And you're watching them, you can kind of be watching this unfold, or you could be just watching from like commercials of the show. Even it's like I'm not interested in watching that show, and then the show gets canceled. Was it because of you? Was it something bigger than that? But
it was because you didn't watch it.
Yes, you Hunter, you Hannah, you guys didn't watch the show, and it's your fault the show was canceled.
It is.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. My fault too. We're all to blame.
It wasn't my fault ever. It's 'cause I watch all these shows.
Yeah, but sometimes that could be a show that you. Yeah, sure, Hunter. It could be a show that you actually did like and watched the whole way through, and you kind of saw like, yeah, they could have improved. The season could have been a little better, but I liked it. I would like to see more of it. But the next thing you know, it lasts May or renewal time comes around and it's not renewed for another season. So you're kind of left with where do I go from here? What do I do? And we're just going to talk about why does that happen? So. So what shows do you guys know in particular that you watch for, that you're watching or watched or were into or interested in, and they only lasted one season?
Well, I know I had I can't believe it took me so long, like most of the week, to even remember these. But there were 3 shows in particular that they weren't really around the same time. They were spaced out a bit, but they were all Matthew Perry shows. And I love Matthew Perry. He was great.
Yeah,
He was my favorite friend.
Yeah,
I always loved Chandler. So
the funny
naturally,
one.
Yeah. But the 3 shows, there was, I think in order of when they came out, there was Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was actually very much like 30 Rock. And unfortunately, it aired at like the same time as 30 Rock. And that just, I guess, was more popular.
Yeah.
And it just kind of ended up overshadowing it, so they didn't continue with it, unfortunately. Yeah. Then there was Mr. Sunshine. And honestly, I have a hard time remembering exactly what that one was about, because I tend to get it confused with the third one that came after that, Go On. And I do remember Go On. That was the one where he was a sports radio announcer, and but like his wife had died from a distracted driver accident, and so he was like going to like group therapy about that and everything. It was an interesting show. It was fun, but again, I don't know why it only lasted a season. I should have done my research. I can look that up. So that's just a few that I have. Also, if we come back to this, I don't know if you want us to do all of our shows at once or do it in cycles, but one that I'm recently wounded by was Tuca and Birdie.
Why did that wound you, Hunter?
Because it was like BoJack Horseman, and it is one of those that it's probably I can see it initially being off-putting to people, but it definitely takes time to build, and it starts off much crazier and just more wild than BoJack Horseman did. With its humor is a lot stronger, and then but it definitely did plant some seeds at the beginning, and as it got a little further into the season, you would notice that it raised some really serious issues and had some positive messages and just really realistic messages, and it did some pretty interesting stuff. But I think just the style of it and a lot of the humor was maybe a bit too much for people, and it was hard to get through. So
was it was it set in the same like continuity of the show? Was it similar characters? It was just the same style and humor.
I think it was the same creator or something. It was the same art style. The humor wasn't really the same. It didn't feel that way to me. But again, in the way they moved from the humor into like the real world issues and everything, some of these major issues dealt with like I don't know, kind of depression, not really in the same way that BoJack did, but also like just it dealt with like rape culture. And just like people taking advantage of like an older male taking advantage of like a younger coworker and everything, and just challenges people deal with who have goals and they really want and expectations for themselves. They really try to live up to things, but not being able to, and then it's failing to live up to your own expectations as well as others, and dealing with that and trying to adjust, and just a lot of things like that.
Yeah, so it tackled a lot of issues, but I guess it just didn't have couldn't hold on to the same audience that watched BoJack, or couldn't attract new audiences.
Yeah.
One of mine that me and some friends were actually really into was a show called Terra Nova. Do you guys remember that, or have you?
I remember hearing about it, but unfortunately, I did not watch it.
The show Terra Nova, it takes place in the future. I want to say it's like 20. It's like the 2100s. So, and it's where there's a human population has expanded to a very high rate. There's childbirth policies enacted, and this family has reached the limit, and they've already had another kid, so they're trying to hide the kid, but they have a new program in motion where they are figured out how to use time travel to go back to the prehistoric age, to the Jurassic period, Jurassic Cretaceous, one of those dinosaur eras, and they can send people back through a portal, and they can live there. So that helps kind of keep some of the humans out. I guess filter out some of the human population. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see how they would survive in that place. It had Stephen Lang who was in Avatar, and it kind of had a similar Avatar feel. And of course, you could see how they survived. Raptors and T-Rexes and just a lot of. And I think the plot kind of teetered on to just like a more human struggle. Kind of like it was more of like humans were becoming their enemy instead of just dinosaurs and survival. But I liked it, and I think what happened, it was just maybe cost too much money, given that I get that. I guess that much sci-fi was just too much for them to handle.
Could be. Do you think that you're talking about Terra Nova, right?
Yeah.
You think that might be what happened with Firefly or anything similar? Because I just remember and because I've never seen either of those, but they kind of seem, I guess, somewhat similar. I guess just because they're both kind of one season wonders and both sci-fi shows. Yeah, other than that, I don't really have a lot to say about them being comparable.
Yeah, I mean, they were both sci-fi shows. They had a really interesting, different premise. I think a lot of it could have been budget. A lot of it could have been ratings. If you don't have a certain number of ratings, then your show just kind of doesn't really. If you don't seem to have the people watching it, then studios are gonna be like, well, no one's watching the show, so yeah, it's good, but you have to kind of go where the money is, or go where with what people want, what the people are watching. Yeah. So both of those are kind of, I guess, both of those. Were you trying to bring up Firefly as an example?
I mean, that is an example. That's another show I've not seen.
That is kind of the example. Yeah. Of a show that everybody was like, "Why was this show canceled? Bring it back, please." It's been 20 years, but let's move on. It's okay.
Nathan Fillion has gotten along just fine after that.
Yes, I think most of them have got along just fine with that after that show.
Yeah.
Hannah, do you have one to share with the class?
Yeah. One of the ones that I've started watching and I haven't finished making all the way through, but I'm really enjoying it, is DC's Constantine.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I saw that today as well, and I couldn't believe I forgot about it.
Yeah. And I've been thoroughly enjoying what I've seen. And for those, if anyone doesn't know, Constantine's a DC character who it doesn't seem like he has magic. He's kind of like a demon slayer. It's very like supernatural-esque kind of thing. Yeah. And it seems like it garnered a pretty big sort of like, I guess you call it like a cult following. People who watched it were like, it's awesome, cool. I'm really into it. Yeah.
Yes.
But there's apparently a couple cited reasons that it failed. It was he's not a very well-known character, so it was hard to sort of gain a following that way.
Which is a bit surprising because there was the Keanu Reeves movie that came out a while ago too.
Yeah. They apparently were on like a terrible time slot that like nobody ever watched on TV and on a channel that wasn't really well suited for the show and didn't really have the audience that it was appealed to. But it seems like just due to bad ratings for one reason or another, they canceled it after only one season. Yeah. Which from what I've seen is a bummer because I've really enjoyed what I've seen. And he has come back, the characters come back on a couple episodes of Arrow and Flash and whatever, and they're big whatchamahoosit.
Crossovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been in a couple episodes here and there.
I
But
think
he
he's a
seems
really
like
interesting character.
yeah, and it
Oh,
seems
yeah,
like the
yeah.
actor who plays him in the show does a really good job and makes him really, really like fascinating. You're like, what's this guy's deal? Just kind of
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah, Matt Ryan really does enjoy playing the character, and I watched the show like from like there was I think he was competing with a bunch of other superhero shows, like you said, the Bad Time Slot, and just trying to get a interesting story out there. But I was watching, I was like, okay, there's more they could do with this. Just get to season 2. Come on, I know they can do it, but they couldn't make it work. And I was really glad to hear that he were going to have him come back for an episode of Arrow, and then later on they added him to Legends of Tomorrow. So he's been a major character since the end of season 3. He's been involved with them since then.
Yeah, but he's
I
one
think
of the characters from DC that kind of feel like gets lost sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's I really enjoyed kind of getting to know him as a character and being like, oh, this is kind of a different sort of thing that's set in the same universe.
Yeah.
I mean, he also has he's basically the main character in the animated movie Justice League Dark, which is pretty good. That can give you a little more insight. And yeah, he's not exactly magic, but I think that's what makes him interesting is that he's not magic, but he knows how to use all the magic stuff, and he knows the spells and everything.
Yeah. He's kind of like if Sam and Dean Winchester were one person, and he just does all that stuff. He knows how to talk to the dead. He can shoot fire. He can like use hellfire here and there. He can trick celestial beings into doing what he wants, and
well, and it's possible that like
he's a bastard too.
I feel like it's possible the similarity to Supernatural might not have helped it, honestly.
Yeah.
Could be.
Because it was coming out at the same time, because everything that's come out in the past 15 years has come out at the same time as Supernatural.
And I was going to say, was that on Sci-Fi, Constantine?
No, Constantine was apparently on NBC.
Yeah.
NBC.
Which is kind of like, we're like, that's kind of a weird choice.
Yeah. Although I guess Sci-Fi would have been weird too. I don't know why that was my initial thought.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have made it on Sci-Fi. I'm pretty sure like CW was tempted to take it whenever the show got canceled, but they already had Supernatural, so it's like we're gonna have 2 Supernatural shows in the same network.
I think it probably would have lasted longer if it had been CW. But
yeah, for sure, especially with all the tie-ins, if they had tied it in earlier to all the Arrow and Flash stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. But that's what happens with some shows. I mean, they get cut off, and then they can be revived by other networks, or be resurrected in like little ways, like just take the main character and put him in different shows, and people will be like, yes, and then you'll actually increase your viewership for the shows that the person's in.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason I went back to watch it is I saw it on DC Universe, and kind of glanced over it until I went and watched some of the new crossover multiverse stuff, and then was like, who's this dude?
Yeah.
I went back and watched the show.
Nice.
Yeah.
So.
And I was just, by the way, looking up some reasons for like why Go On failed, just to kind of talk about that. And apparently that also had came on, that was like when The Voice was just starting, and I think it came on like right after that or something. So I guess people were thinking that would have helped it. And I think it looks like maybe it did for a little bit, and then it just started kind of, people started losing interest. And same thing with, kind of the same thing with Mr. Sunshine. Like it started off good, and then it lost viewers more and more after each episode.
Yeah. Just whittle down. Yeah. One show that speaking of DC, we watched, we mentioned Swamp Thing on DC Universe. That show was canceled after the second episode was aired, but they still released all of the episodes for that season out. So, but
I still haven't watched that.
Yeah,
that's one of the ones that I mean to.
Yeah, I still need to finish it myself. but I was enjoying like what I was watching. It was dark and a dark horror show with the Swamp Thing character, who I've seen pop up in a lot of DC animated movies and reading comics here and there.
And Injustice too.
That too, yeah. I played as him in Injustice.
Yeah.
So he's another kind of a wildly powerful character that's also kind of does his own thing, but he also gets mixed up in the grand scheme in the big story at the time. His show, I think that show was canceled because of just the disagreements with the budget, and they had, I think they were, they had him in. They were putting a lot of money into the show, and once that money dried up, they couldn't keep the show looking like they wanted to, or they couldn't just make it work to save money. So they ended up canceling it.
Yeah, and there was if you want to stay in DC, there was also Birds of Prey, way back in like early 2000s.
Way back when.
Yeah, that was only a season. I didn't even really watch much of it. I think when I got DC Universe, I think I watched like the first episode.
Yeah.
So anybody familiar with that probably went to see, what is now called Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey.
Yeah. It was. I remember watching it, and it was. I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched it on DC Universe or CW Seed, and it was okay. I think it was still in that whole cheesy 2000s theme of let's wear leather and make Matrix references, and
it's one of those things. If you mention early 2000s TV show type things, you kind of know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you know.
Cheesy dialogue. If it's like a kind of a gothic action noir or something like that, you got underworld thing. It kind of sounded like that, like Underworld, Matrix, all that stuff kind of combined in one show.
Yeah. But there was another show I wanted to bring up, and I kept forgetting about it. Mainly, I kind of remembered it because it was like an interesting new concept, but I forget about it so often. I forget about the name, honestly. But I remembered it today because I saw another video that mentioned it. Was Defiance. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that. That was actually pretty interesting and kind of unique because when it was a game. It was a video game that was announced to be the TV show. There was a TV show that went with it, and they were supposed to run like side by side, and each the show would inform the game of what happens, and the game would inform the TV show, and so they would kind of feed into each other. I think it was a bit too ambitious because you're kind of looking for two audiences that aren't necessarily going to interact with each other to kind of force them to almost.
You're kind of forcing their hand to work to, I guess, someone to play a video game and watch a show, or watch a show and play a video game, when most of that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I mean, and it was interesting, kind of from what I remember about it. It kind of felt like, at least in terms of the TV show, it sort of felt like Game of Thrones, but science fiction. Almost like Game of Thrones meets District 9 in a sense.
Hannah, you were going to bring up
I was going to say, a quick Google search makes it seem like there were 3 seasons.
3 seasons of Defiance?
Assuming I'm looking at the right thing.
You may not be. Hold on, let me...
Was it on Sci-Fi?
Excuse me.
Yeah? No, here, it just says 1 season. This was... What year is the one you're looking at?
2013?
Yeah, I see Defiance 2013 drama 1 season.
Yeah, but then it also says not that.
Oh, you know what? I see that when it says the Wikipedia thing.
Yeah.
The truth will set you free.
I'm pretty sure it was only 1 season.
I mean, it says 1 season, but then it says the first episode was April of 2013 and the last one was August of 2015. So it definitely seems like more than 1 season.
So what happened?
That's
was
so
it
weird.
Stretched out, or did someone not know what they were typing up.
I mean, Wikipedia, anybody can go in and say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, they can. I've seen some weird things. Like I thought I knew more. I thought I knew about this topic, but this is saying something completely different than what it's supposed to.
It also
I
says
think
there was a new version
they
of
fixed
the
that though.
game. It says there was a new version of the game released in 2018. That's weird.
But
I don't know.
gimmicks-
Anyways, I was pretty sure that was only one season.
Well, sorry.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
again,
that's a good point. I mean, a gimmick like that could keep viewers from accepting the show or keeping the show from going on longer than one season or finishing its episode run of a season.
Yeah. What was so a couple I just actually want to know about. Any of you know about Krypton? Did that last multiple seasons?
That was 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the Marvel one? Inhumans?
Inhumans was one season.
That was just 1 season?
Yeah, and that one was more of Game of Thrones-esque,
Yeah.
but sci-fi and in Marvel. And it did not do well.
Honestly, though, I was excited for it when it was going to be like a movie.
Same,
and then when they showed off like the first trailer for the show, I was like, this looks like crap. This is going to suck. So I didn't watch it. And then that's what I heard. I heard it sucked.
Yeah. I was kind of impressed with they're going to have Black Bolt in there. They're going to have Ramsay Bolton as the villain. And it's going to be kind of like we'll get to see more of the Inhumans that were touched on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But then I just kind of lost interest with everything else that was out, and then heard it was bad, so I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just stick to actually watching Game of Thrones or watching some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that, not have the two together.
Yeah.
But that was all. I think that was all in the play of like, oh, we can't get the X-Men, so let's use Inhumans and people will like that too, right? Anyone? No. Okay. That's fine. Let's see. Hannah, do you have another show?
I did, but I don't know if it counts.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I mentioned Defiance, which apparently had 3 seasons.
That's true.
So.
Did not count.
The reason I say I don't know if it counted, it's my probably my favorite anime. It's called Fruits Basket. It's adorable, but also very like it kind of comes across at the beginning as like this very girly, cutesy TV show, but then like there are some really wonderful characters and some really great character development, and it's fantastic, or at least it would be had the anime not stopped after book 7 of the manga, of which there are 23 books in the manga.
Wow.
Yeah, so everyone was very upset that they ended it kind of like right when it was starting to get good. And the reason I say I don't know if it counts is because they're finally, like, years and years later, just redoing it, like starting from the beginning, and like are committed to doing the full series. But for a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm seeing here. I see something for like a season 2 trailer. From,
so the new show just started coming out last year in kind of like late 2019. But before that, I don't actually know when the original show came out. Let's look it up.
That may be the
original.
Actually, that's the manga
show. Let's see. 2001. So it was 18 years that everyone who loved the series only had like a third of the actual story in manga format or anime format. So it was very disappointing all the way up until last year, and we're finally getting the full thing done. But it's super cute, and I love it.
So, well, and I guess that means that shows can be 1 season, but I guess it's like it can be only 1 season, but it can still be revived for season 2 way down the line.
Well, it's not even season 2; they're starting over.
Oh, they're just doing a redo.
Started over,
because they messed up.
Yeah, and it's funny because like
it's
pretty similar to the first one, like so far, because they only have had 1 season come out of the new series, so it's pretty similar to what they had before. But it is like you can tell it's a little bit better quality because it was made in 2019 instead of 2001. And apparently what happened was something that I think happens a good bit with anime, where they started creating the anime before the manga was fully released.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just kind of ended the story, rather than trying to like keep it going when they didn't really have any more material.
Yeah.
So now they're like, okay, we're gonna finish it out.
Yeah, they wrote themselves into a hole, and
Mm-hmm.
then now they're like, okay, we can get out of the hole now and redo this
Yeah.
right.
And it's like you finally start to uncover the mystery of like what's going on in this family, and then they're like, that's the end. And we're like, what do you mean that's the end? That's not the end.
That's not right. That's not what I read.
Yeah, but now it's coming back, and we're very excited.
Yeah. An unrelated show, well, a similar related show that had lasted more than one season. Dragon Ball Super did something like that, where they were just kind of consistently writing the anime, but also making the show for the Super manga, and they were kind of digging themselves into a deep hole of like exhaustion and just, but they did a great job, but they also burned themselves out. So the manga isn't finished, but they had to stop the anime to let the manga kind of get done with a few arcs, and then they could. I think they're reportedly going to bring it back after that.
Well, I think the same thing happened, or something similar happened with Full Metal Alchemist, where they started creating Full Metal Alchemist, the anime, but the manga wasn't done, and so they just kind of were like, we're gonna make it up then, and it didn't really match, and it wasn't really good, and then they came out with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood later, which was much faster paced and actually like had the full storyline set aside before they started creating it. So it's
always a good idea.
It's
kind of unanimously
good.
a better show. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've never even watched the original because everyone's like, meh.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
I was trying to watch it with roommates and friends, and I was like, I kept jumping back and forth between Alchemist and the regular Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood, and I was like, which one do I need to watch?
Just watch Brotherhood.
I hear good things about Brotherhood, so I'm sticking with Brotherhood.
Yeah. And you could tell kind of out the gate, because I did watch a little bit of the original. Like Brotherhood's just way faster paced because they're like, we got a story to tell. Like, we got to get through this.
Yeah.
So rather than trying to stretch everything out and make it last longer.
Yeah, we're not going to waste y'all's time.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. I brought up gimmicks, I guess different show gimmicks. I'm not sure how often, this isn't done too often, but another show that I watched a little bit with a friend called Son of Zorn. Have you all heard of that one?
No.
Yeah, I've heard of it, and it looked interesting. I never watched it. I know you guys, you and Taylor did.
Yeah.
When we were roommates, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. Funny at some parts, but it involved Zorn, which is like kind of a He-Man, figure, like an animated character in a live-action show, which I was always wondering how they did that. But they have done it. They do it in movies all the time. So, and some TV shows in a smaller degree. But I was just like, I was kind of wondering how they were doing all this. But they made it and it was kind of weird of how, he was an animated character in the real world, and he had a girlfriend that he had a kid with, that the kid was half human, half animated. He was animated down the hip. It was weird, Hannah. It was weird. And
it sounds weird.
Yeah. And his girlfriend marries a guy, and so the guy is trying to, come to terms with the fact that Zorn is this barbarian animated character that comes by the house to see his son, and brings crazy animated characters from his land to the real world, and he ends up trying to get a job to be a better dad. It was a weird show.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
One that I was looking at, because I just thought of, I've not seen the actual show, but Josh, you won't know what I've seen. Hellsing Ultimate. I guess that was technically one series. From what I'm seeing here on the Wikipedia page, it says there was an OVA, original video animation, entitled Hellsing Ultimate, and it followed the manga storyline more closely than the anime series. I don't know exactly the difference of that there. But it was only 10 episodes. However, that was over the span of like 6 years. So, I mean, and here it's not actually it's not referring to any of that as like a season, but, I guess it was, but that's an example of, I guess, something not necessarily only having a season because it was bad or because it failed or anything, but just because it kind of finished its story and didn't really, they did what they were going to do and they didn't want to keep trying to make stuff up just to prolong its life.
I think that's actually really respectable.
Yeah, I do too.
And I know they did that more or less with a series of unfortunate events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're like, we're going to have 3 seasons and that's it.
Yeah,
but I feel like having a finite story is honestly, I feel like, a better way to do things. Because as much as I love Supernatural, in season 10, I was like, what is happening? This has been going on for so long. It's like, what I don't understand anymore. So I really appreciate someone having like, this is a story we want to tell, and we're gonna like put our all into it, and then we're done.
Yeah, our foot down, and that's it.
A really good way to do TV.
Yeah, and like that happened. That's what I want them to do with the Outsider, which actually just wrapped up last night, March 8th, 2020, and they wrapped up the first season. However, I looked online, and it looks like they're probably gonna do a second season stuff, which, like, I really don't want them to, because it's based off the Stephen King book, and they, as far as I can tell, they wrapped it up. So it looks like anything they do beyond that is going to kind of take the characters that were involved and like put them on like their own adventures or something after those events, which I don't think would be a great idea.
So the rest of the show is going to be kind of a spinoff of the original story.
That's what it feels like to me, and that's why I don't want them to do that. But I don't know. I haven't actually read the book. It's pretty recent. It was like 2018, I think. So I may just go do that and see if I'm correct. But yeah, and that's also that's an HBO series, which they, I think, are doing something like that with The Watchmen. Except from what I can tell, it seems like they're more hesitant to do a second season. Because like the movie and the original, comic book too, or graphic novel, it was, it was a story. They told the story and they were done with it.
Yeah. And
that's what they did with at least season 1 of the show. They told a story there and they wrapped it up. So what I was reading was saying, like, if they do end up doing a second season, then it'll be like that, where they probably have its own self-contained story, and they're gonna wrap it up there.
Yeah, I think they seemed like they were looking at doing a second season, and then they were like, nah, let's, this is fine. So it'll just be a limited series, and then someone else can come back to the universe and do their own story, but it won't be a second season or a spinoff of this. It'll just be a alternate retelling of The Watchmen, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about ratings, cost, quality for all different reasons why shows get in. So, what are your favorite one-season wonders? Let us know. And that's the show for today. What's next week's episode?
Next week, that's me, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I believe next week is that the acting one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Different comparing different forms of acting. So voice acting, live action, and motion capture. So to kind of be discussing the good, the bad, the challenges, mostly the challenges, and just what takes differently.
Do either of you have any acting experience?
Josh has some.
I took some workshops.
And I studied film and video, so.
Okay, well, I guess this is my topic then.
Okay.
Bring it, Hannah. All right. Well, hope you join us next week and let us know what you think. But this is Nerd Variety Podcast, nerding out.
Bye.
See y'all later.
See ya.